Hello, it's Lisa Gavin again, and we are taking a deep dive into the wealth mindset. Our 8-part series, we've already done 1 through 6, and now we're at part 7, is about the top 8 things that you must stop doing now if you plan to unlock your wealth potential. Number 7 is going to be one that's going to strike a nerve probably with some people, because we often don't want to fess up to doing this all wrong. But communication. You have to stop thinking that your poor communication skills don't come at a cost, because they do. When you're trying to build wealth, you're going to have to talk to and deal with a lot of people. No brainer here. Some of these people you won't like. Right? So as a communicator, you have to be able to navigate that very difficult dynamic. You're going to be communicating with coworkers if you're still working a job. You're going to be communicating with employees if you own a company. You're going to be dealing with partners, vendors, other people who are responsible for working with you and collaborating with you to provide whatever service that you're providing, whether it's at a job or it's in your own company. There is no possible way that you can get around communication. So the one principle that I want people to understand is that good communication is really for you. It's not just for the other person. Here's an example. Someone may really grate your nerves. And so you show that you don't like that person, or you show that you don't feel like dealing with that person. If that person is in control of something that you want or a resource that you need, your poor communication, your poor response to that communication may actually remove the very thing that you want, the very thing that you need. So you have to play nice, even if you don't feel like it. And by doing that, at the end of the day, you get what you're trying to get out of the relationship. It may sound very self-centered and self-serving, but if you're trying to get ahead in life, there has to be some angle or some part of you that's a little self-centered and that's a little self-serving, right? So one of the things that we have to remember in communication is not just what comes out your mouth, is what shows in your body. There are body language experts that can very easily watch you talk and tell you exactly what you're thinking, if you're telling the truth, if you're lying, if you're being honest, if you're being transparent, because they're watching your body language. So communication is not just a verbal thing. It is face. And unfortunately, my face sometimes tells more than what I want to reveal, right? So, you do have to be very conscious of what you're doing. Different things that you do with your hands. I tend to talk a lot with my hands because I'm a very passionate and outgoing and, all of that person. But when I'm communicating with certain people, I have to learn how to tone that down. It may come across as a little too much or too aggressive for some folks. You have to really be able to shape yourself for the situation. Am I saying you have to change who you are? Absolutely not. Because I can tell you for a fact, the person that I am is the person that I'm always going to be. I'm always going to be a good communicator. I'm always going to try to connect with people. I'm always going to say exactly what's on my mind. And sometimes that can be taken to a fault. I do have to work on pulling back a little bit in order to get what I want out of the person that I'm communicating to and out of the situation that I'm facing. So it's really tailoring it for you to be able to convey whatever it is that you're trying to get across to the person that you're trying to communicate with. There is something that our parents probably all told us. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? Why did they tell us that? Because sometimes communication is shutting up. That's another part of communication that throws a lot of people. Now, this is the one that strikes a nerve, because I'm going to tell you, there's some people who can't shut their mouths for 2 seconds to hear what the other person is saying. A lot of times that's because they're so busy thinking about the next thing that they want to say, or the point that they want to get across, or how they're going to win the argument, that they're all in their head and they're not hearing anything that you've said. So a big part of communication is listening. You'd be surprised how many people tell on themselves. You'd be surprised how many people reveal everything you want to know just by listening. Add to that, asking a simple question. Because I'm telling you one thing I know about people. People love to talk about themselves. We're in the selfie society. Everybody loves to see how they look and show you what they get and tell you about what they're doing and tell you about this and that. Well, 9 times out of 10, if you just ask a simple and well-placed and well-verbalized question, people will end up telling you everything that you need to know. And I don't know about you, but a large part of my conversations, I'm very interested in understanding what angle a person's coming from, understanding who they are, understanding what possibly I can get out of them, what they can do for me, how I can connect with them. And again, this is not to sound selfish, but it's just the truth of the matter. You need to understand where people are coming from. Because as I've talked about in other sections, if you want to have a partnership, for instance, you need to know who this person really is. You need to be able to honestly assess what the whole deal is with this person. Let them tell on themselves. Okay? So you can do that by just listening more and letting people tell you and reveal to you more about themselves and who they are. So that's an important part of communication, because if you dominate every conversation, and believe me, this is part of my personal struggle. As I've told you in past sessions, I thought I was pretty smart, so I did a lot of talking. A wise man knows that he knows nothing at all. So the more that you can just know that there's so much more to be offered by every person, even the person that you don't think has anything to tell you. See what they have to offer, and you'd be surprised how much you learn from people, because in all honesty, everybody has their different expertise. And so I can't be good at everything. I can't know everything. Nobody can. So just be open to improving your communication, doing more listening, and really getting more from people. The other part of communication that I think is probably bigger than those areas I talked about. Having poor communication with yourself is probably the most detrimental type of poor communication that you can have. Self-talk, a lot of times we don't pay attention to it because we're just running around and just letting these thoughts randomly run around in our heads. But the brain is not random at all. The human brain is constantly processing. And so if you have bad self-talk, oh, that was so stupid. Why did I do that? I don't know what I was thinking. Oh man, such is going to be so mad at me. You don't give yourself any grace. You don't give yourself any forgiveness. You don't give yourself any understanding. And you don't really hear the conversation that you're having with yourself. You don't literally hear you berating yourself. The reason that people talk about meditation and how important meditation is because it allows you to, if you work hard at it, quiet your mind. The first time that you quiet your mind, what's going to happen is you're going to actually hear yourself think. That's going to be weird. When you're actually doing nothing else so that you can pay attention to what you're saying to yourself. And as you do that, what's going to happen is eventually you're going to say, dang, if you keep repeating yourself, I messed up, I messed up, I messed up, you're going to feel like a mess up. You're going to feel like a screw up. That's not what you need to be saying to yourself. What you need to be saying to yourself is, man, okay, there's something else I had to do different to do that better next time. Change the narrative. Change the narrative to, what do I have to do better? So that you can focus on improvement, not focus on the wrongdoing. Because everybody does things wrong. Everybody makes mistakes. Are you going to live your life wallowing in the mistakes? Or are you going to start focusing on how to channel that to something positive and positive self-talk? So that's why meditation is important. Also, affirmations. Affirmations are important because you want to have something that you can constantly say to yourself that helps you do better, helps you be better, helps you feel better. Because you have to be your best and first cheerleader. I know we want somebody else to be our cheerleaders, but once mom and daddy is not around as we grow up, you have to be that cheerleader for yourself. So having those types of good communication patterns will help. Again, better communication with yourself, meditation, affirmation, more positive communication, and more positive communication with other people. Listen more than you talk when it's possible. Sometimes you have to do the talking because you're the expert and it's okay. But also in that communication, put out positive energy. Negative energy can just travel and it hits one person and then the next person. And you'll never know how your bad energy just transferred to somebody else and then they transferred it yet to someone else. So you want to put out positivity in your communication. And emotionalism, put that in check. Emotional communication usually does not come out right. Trust me. Have you ever been at a restaurant or something and the waiter is upset about something and he comes over and he has an attitude and you're like, dude, I didn't do it to you. Okay? You don't want to have that bad energy and then you turn around and give some bad energy back. But if you was to look at that waiter and look at his name on his name tag and say, hey, Eric, you having a rough day? It's okay, man. Take your time. One, he's going to be surprised you said his name. Two, he's going to be surprised that you're actually understanding of the fact that he's having a rough day. And that may change the whole entire trajectory of his day. Your positive communication. But that bad communication, that emotional communication, that disrespectful communication, leave it. Nobody wants it and it doesn't get you anywhere. That's my spiel about communication. Keep it positive and don't let poor communication keep you from your goals.